Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Hedge. I'm Steve Inman with the Game Day. Today, we have an awesome show for you. The Madness is back, and we'll get to that. But Pro Hoops is where our heart is at to start. We have NBA insider Earl K. Sneed on. Earl, let's get into it. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm excited to talk to you. Obviously, you cover the Dallas Mavericks. Let's get to them. Obviously, we've talked about this before the show. I'm a huge Knicks fan, and I don't really feel sorry for their up and down season. They've obviously rebounded to a degree. Now that draft pick is not looking too great. It's 19, 20, 21. So what's your takeaway from the season early on so far?
I feel like the Mavericks are starting to see the team they thought they would have coming out of the bubble. They obviously exceeded expectations for the team last year. Going into the bubble, we start to see Luka transition from being the rookie of the year to second-year player who looks like he's the next second coming. And then this year, he didn't have the supporting cast. When you talk about Kristaps Porzingis, he wasn't healthy until January. And then the Mavs get hit by COVID and health protocols more than any other team. They lose 3 starters. And then Jalen Brunson also coming off the bench. So now this team is healthy in the last 13, 14, 15 games. You're starting to see it add up in the wins. And also Luka looks like he's willing to put the team on his back even more so. And you're starting to see that in his stats. And Kristaps Porzingis is now looking like he's healthy. So this team is really rounded into shape. They're around that 8 seed or so going into the weekend, but they have the lightest schedule post All-Star break when you look at opponents' win percentage. So I feel like they're about to move up the standings and not necessarily sit in the 8 seed.
Let's talk about Luka. You talked about him putting the team on his back right now. Obviously, they're going to need more of that to make a playoff run here. Could you see that happening where he could lift them to a Western Conference Finals potentially?
Absolutely. He has that skill set. When you talk about a walking triple-double, what he's doing, and he's excelling not just as a scorer and a playmaker, but also you're starting to see him step up on the defensive end. Yeah. And he's not known as a defender, but he's actually starting to step up and let me defend the other team's best perimeter player. So he knows he's going to have to put this team on his back. But also this team is 11-1, I feel like, going into the weekend when they out-rebound their opponents. And he's starting to step up and help out the post players, and that's why you're starting to see the triple-doubles really add up, because he knows he needs to help this team on the boards and also defensively. So I think he's going to put this team on his back offensively and defensively in the second half of the season.
That to me tells me that they need another big man, right? Like Kristaps Porzingis is a big man, but he's not a great rebounder for his size. And obviously he's been in and out of the lineup the last couple of years, whether it was with the Knicks and now with Dallas. What is going on with him? Do you see him, improving himself enough where he does not get traded?
It's hard to say. It's also hard to say what he would bring back in return in a trade. I feel like they're a totally different team when he is healthy and is in the lineup. And we just read off his stats. He's averaging 20 and 8 easily. So what he's bringing to the table offensively and on the glass, when you talked about it, he's not the world's greatest defender, but he's shooting from the logo like he's Steph Curry and Damian Lillard on the offensive end. And he's just a totally the nickname Unicorn, like it fits him perfectly because he's able to do whatever he wants to do offensively. He's not a post-up guy, but you're starting to see him post up more than he did in previous seasons. So I feel like if he does stay, and I feel like the Mavs float stuff out there all the time just to see what they could potentially get back in return. I feel like he's going to stay with this team post-trade deadline, but I feel like he's going to have to step up and be that guy that Luka didn't have in the bubble going against the Clippers. He needed that second guy, and I feel like Kristaps Porzingis will be that going for the second half of the season and also going into the playoffs.
It's hard to find a trade where you can match salaries with Kristaps and also improve the team, right? Like we've speculated on this show that like, hey, a Kemba Walker for Porzingis deal kind of makes sense in some way, but it doesn't really, you're not sure if that's actually going to help either side, right? So I'm curious if you thought of any kind of trades that they could send Porzingis out and somehow improve this roster.
That's the thing. When you have Luka, the only way that you can improve the team is having a versatile big man, and that's Kristaps Porzingis. You can't bring in a Kemba Walker who dominates the ball just like Luka does. So
exactly.
There's not a perfect fit, honestly, out there. I feel like you need a healthy Kristaps Porzingis more than you need to shop him in a trade.
So do you see any kind of smaller moves for Dallas at the deadline? Obviously, they could use some help. We mentioned a big guy. You could use another shooter. They lost Seth Curry. I think they've missed him more than people have let on this season. Do you see any kind of move like that where they can go add another shooter or another big?
I think this team always looks to add shooting from any position. But also, I feel like when you don't have a guy like a big who was out for 3 weeks, and I'm talking about the guy from Germany whose name is slipping my mind right now.
Dwight Powell? Kleber. Maxi Kleber.
Maxi Kleber. I'm sorry. Maxi Kleber. I feel like he's the guy that you need in terms of on the boards. He's the team's best rebounder. He's a versatile big who can guard on the perimeter and also down low. So I feel like him not being in the lineup because of COVID for 3 weeks, it really impacted this team. So I think him healthy now, you don't have to shop trying to get a big guy on the market, on the trade market, because you have a healthy Maxi Kleber now.
Is a healthy Maxi Kleber enough, though? Like, is he a guy who could start for you for a Western Conference Finals team?
You would think not.
Right.
But on this team, you don't need a lot, I feel like, if you have Luka who's healthy and you have KP who's healthy. You need the right components to play around those guys. And I feel like Maxi is perfect for that. I feel like Dwight Powell is the role big that you need going to the basket and finishing above the rim. So that's not necessarily what I would shop for on the market, but like you mentioned, Seth Curry, the loss of him, this team is impacted more than they ever thought they would be when they made the trade.
That hasn't worked out the way they thought it would so far.
Right. And he was a tremendous ball handler as much as he was as a shooter. So guys that play off the board, guys that create opportunities for Luka to play off the ball, you don't have that now. Luka has to dominate the ball. So I would say trying to find another guard that can come off the bench or another guard that can spot shooting on this team would really be helpful. And that might be something that the Mavs look to do at the trade deadline.
All right, Earl, we have this promotion here at the Game Day going on right now. It's who will win in a fight. We have a whole bracket going. You can find it on our Instagram, on the Game Day, on the stories. And the deal is every major athlete across, football, basketball, some hockey guys, they're in a bracket, a battle-style royale, if you will. And the number one seed right now is Aaron Donald. And so I want to ask you, you've seen the bracket. Could you see, who would you take to win on this?
I'm never going to go against Aaron Donald for anything. I did see that the number one seed on one side of the bracket, at least, was Steven Adams.
Yeah.
And if you talk to any NBA player, they would say running into that guy when he sets the screen, it's like running into a brick wall. So I don't have a problem with that. But I will throw another name out there that wasn't on the bracket.
Love it.
And that's James Johnson. A lot of people don't realize he's a second-degree karate black belt, and also his dad was a black belt. So I feel like he comes from a lineage of assault killers if they need to defend themselves. So that's a guy that I would take number one in my bracket, and I don't see him on the bracket.
We definitely have to make a underrated guys bracket, not just stars for the next one. We already had some DMs going, you didn't have enough hockey guys in there, right? We're getting all these messages like that. So James Johnson's going to be in there. We got hockey guys in there. We have a lot of great feedback for next year's bracket.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that. All right, so let's talk about the real bracket real quick. Obviously, March Madness is in full effect. I'm taking Gonzaga. I feel like they have at least 3 professionals on the team, including Jalen Suggs, who's going to be one of the top 3 picks in this draft. Who are you taking?
I would normally go with the Zags. I feel like they're the best team in the tournament, but I don't think a team that's gone undefeated and won the tournament since like 1970 or 1973 or so.
Yeah.
So I will say the Baylor Bears, I felt like most of the season they were right there They tailed off towards the end of the season. They were right there with Gonzaga. And I feel like they have 4 or 5 guards, and that's what you need in tournament play. They have 4 or 5 guards that can get on the roll. And so I have to go with the Texas team. Even though they're in the Big 12, I went to OU. OU tailed off, so I'm not going to pick them, obviously. But I would say the Baylor Bears I would pick to actually win the whole thing.
Earl, thank you so much. Really appreciate you coming on the Hedge here. What can we plug for you before we wrap it up?
You can find me on my social at Earl K Sneed on Twitter and Instagram. And I have some things coming fairly soon, but I can't get into it right now. So just make sure you check me out on my social and stay tuned. And hopefully you have me back on the Hedge.
Next up here on the Hedge, Jared Sullinger is here to talk a little NBA trade deadline and, of course, the tragic end to the Ohio Buckeye season. Other than that, Jared, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. I'm over here in South Korea playing in the KBL and just enjoying being back playing basketball again.
So how long have you been over there?
I've been here for about a month now. About a month. I got over here in about February. Had to do a 2-week quarantine, mandatory by the government. And after that, it was just they let me fly.
I mean, that's got to be crazy, right? I mean, you're having a quarantine, you're having coronavirus, situation, and you're playing in another country right now. That's got to be even crazier than what we're going through here in New York.
It is crazy, but at the same time, the cases are so low here in South Korea that, there's not really much to bug about. And then on top of that, everybody wears a mask. There's no anti-maskers here.
So are you learning the language, the culture? What have you learned in your short time there?
The language is hard to learn. Honestly, the language is hard to learn. And then the culture is just, the people are really nice here. They're really nice. My team really took me in and really helped me out to get used to not only the KBL, but to the country. That
is great to hear. We'll have to keep following along to see how you play over there. Let's get to the trade deadline before we hit on your Buckeyes. You've been dealt yourself. I mean, I'm sure this isn't fun to talk about, but how does it feel being traded?
It's tough, man. When you got everything going in the city, you don't know if you're going to be traded. For me, I got traded after the deadline.
Right.
So as long as teams are speaking before the deadline or trying to make a deal, they can make a deal up to, I want to say, an hour to 2 hours after the trade deadline. And I got traded right after practice. So it's tough because, you just don't know what's going on. You kind of see your name in the papers and the rumors and all that good stuff, but you just got to control what you can control. And that's being a basketball player. And it doesn't matter if you're, with a certain team or with a different team, you just got to be able to play.
Now, is your agent throughout that process saying, hey, we're hearing you might be traded here or there, or is it really was it a big surprise right after the deadline?
It wasn't a real big surprise because I was coming off of my foot surgery. I wasn't in the best of shape. And my team, my agent was basically saying listen, if you don't get traded, you're probably going to get waived. And so I was just in one of those situations where it was only a matter of time of if I was going to get traded or if I was going to get waived and go and try to find somewhere else to play.
All right. So obviously this trade deadline is coming up. Who do you see as the best player getting traded before the deadline?
Honestly, I can honestly see Kyle Lowry getting traded just because, where their season is, how it's going. And you got to give a lot of credit to these basketball players with all the stuff that's going on. There's limited practices, there's limited interaction, there's limited film sessions. So, certain players and teams need that type of camaraderie to become a great basketball team. And I just think, with Kyle Lowry at the age that he's at, with the value that he holds, I think he'll be a big time value to a championship type team.
It's crazy that, this Raptor team, right? They're playing in Tampa. They didn't know whether they were going to be able to go back to Canada. Do you feel like they should hold on to a guy like Lowry because of how much he's worth to that franchise? Or you think you might as well get something for him since they're not going to probably re-sign him?
At this point, it's at Kyle Lowry's wish. You know, he did everything he needed to do for that franchise. And I just think, Kyle Lowry gets to make that call. At the end of the day, if he wants to be traded, he should be able to get traded just because of everything he did for the franchise.
I totally think that's 100% true. Obviously he's a Villanova guy. You wonder if he makes a lot of sense for the Sixers, and you put him on that Sixer team. Maybe you send out Tyrese Maxey or a first-round pick, but you put Lowry, Simmons, and Bede together. That's a pretty fun team that could probably give you the Nets a 7-game series.
Also, he knows how to win.
Yeah.
He knows how to win. He's a competitor. He puts everything out on the line. So, I could see that happening, but at the same time, you just never know in the NBA. You just never know what team will want him. I can honestly see him with the Bucks possibly. Everybody can make a push for him just because of his championship pedigree and his will to win.
Yeah, no, he's a guy who can fit on a lot of good teams, and all of a sudden you talk about him finding a way to win another championship. He goes down as a pretty special player, winning one in Toronto and then maybe Philly or Milwaukee, as you said.
Yeah, he's really special just because he plays the right way. You don't get that often.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big Knick fan here. We haven't had a point guard in 20 years. You've seen these rosters they put out there. So if he wants to come to the Knicks on a big deal as an aging vet, I wouldn't hate that either.
Yeah, that would be a good look as well.
Yeah. All right, let's definitely not least, but let's talk about the Ohio State Buckeyes. A lot of people, including myself, thought this could be their year. They crash out of the tournament to 15 seed Oral Roberts. What happened, Jared?
What happened was March. When in the game of basketball, March is always the biggest time where teams find themselves. And I think Clark Kellogg said it best. Teams, they're not the teams that you normally see throughout the regular season. Some teams gel totally differently in the month of March. And so you just got, I thought, the two guys, they killed us, Abels and I forget the other big's name. And we just didn't shoot the ball well. And defensively, I thought we didn't play our greatest, but that you got to give credit to Oral Roberts.
Do you see Oral Roberts now going on a big run here, or do you think that was kind of the only one they're going to get?
I think they have a lot of shot takers and shot makers ability in all their guys. They have a very good core group of guys that play the right way, and as long as you got the guys that play the right way and are playing unselfish for the team, that's all you can ask for.
You reached the Final Four while you were with the Buckeyes. Do you have any great stories from that incredible experience?
We had a tough time in between with Big Ten play towards the late of the year. And I remember Coach Mata bringing us together, and he goes, guys, we can either win or we can lose. Pick one. And that's all he told us.
That fired you up. That was it. That was
it. And that just woke us up. That woke us up ASAP, and guys was ready to play. I think guys really hold into their roles. Lindell Smith Jr. against Syracuse, he gets hit in the eye, mind you. He needed stitches. He gets stitches, eyes closed, and he comes in, hits two big threes. I think he finished the game with 18 or 21 points or something like that. And he caught fire after he got hit in the eye. It was just we had so many guys that showed up in big games when we needed them. Not just me, not just Aaron Craft, not just William Buford, but it was just countless amount of guys that just showed up in big games. Amir Williams showed up in the big game. Shannon Scott did the same thing. Evan Ravenel showed up in the big game. So when you got guys that play their roles and still show up in big games like that, that's huge for a team to make a Final Four run.
Now, obviously, Ohio State is not going to win this year. Who is now your new pick to win it all?
I don't know. Honestly, I really don't know, just because I think college basketball is that wide open.
Yeah.
I like Michigan, as bad as that sounds coming from Ohio State Buckeye. I like Michigan, but Livers had the stress fracture. I don't know how that's going to balance the team, without having Livers. And then you got Gonzaga that's playing really, really well. Baylor, of course. You have so many different teams that could possibly win this. Loyola is looking great with Sister Jean on their side.
How do you beat that?
I mean, it's hard to beat somebody like that, but it's college basketball is so wide open. Syracuse is another one that's playing great basketball as of late.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. Last but not least, let's talk a little bit about E.J. Liddell. I don't know if you're familiar with his story, but obviously as a college basketball player, you guys aren't getting paid. And just to have something like that, how do you feel about something like that?
It comes with the territory. It just comes with the territory when you're considered a blue blood of college basketball, being a higher seed, it's like people just see it as, them being the number 2 seed, them losing to Oral Roberts at 15, it's not supposed to happen. Right. But it's March Madness. It's any given day that you can lose to any given team. If you're not playing your best on that day, that happens. It's natural. And I think sometimes with basketball players, with football players, with baseball players, all the entertainment business, I think they just see us as entertainers and not as human beings.
Yeah.
So we're supposed to be these robots that don't have no heart, don't have no feelings. And at the end of the day, it's like, you know, I have a family I have to go to. I have, you know, a sister, a brother, a mother, a father. Like, you wouldn't want that to happen to you or somebody else. What makes you think it's okay for it to happen to me because you see me on TV? That's not fair. I just think, you know, that being an athlete, being an entertainer, doing anything that, you know, puts you in the limelight, you get treated unfairly just because you see me.
Yeah, no, I think that's 100% right. Just how do we get that word out there? You know, I mean, social media is a cesspool, as you know. How do we like remind people of these things? Because everyone knows it, but nobody really thinks about this before they say terrible things on the internet.
There's nothing you can say or do because there's so many people that hide behind keyboards. So the more you hide, like, it's so easy for me to say something tough behind the keyboard because you know I'm not going to come looking for you.
Yeah, no, I think that's 100% right. I want to wrap it up on something a little more positive. Tell me who's going to win the NBA championship this year.
That's another question I don't know. You got the Brooklyn Nets that's playing great basketball. You have the Lakers that was playing good basketball, but you know, AD was out and now LeBron's out, right. So you don't know where they're going to be at in the polls. You got the Utah Jazz is playing great basketball. The 76ers that's playing great basketball. You got Milwaukee that's always been there. They just can't get over the hump. There's so many good, the LA Clippers. I mean, there's so many good basketball teams that you can name. The Phoenix Suns are looking really, really tough. Yeah. Like, there's so many great basketball teams that, you know, again, to beat a team 4 times in a row or 4 times out of 7 times, that's hard to do with all those great basketball minds because there's constant adjustments through games, through each game, through each quarter, through each half. And it's just so hard to beat a team 4 times in 7 games.
I think I got to take the Nets right now. The way they're playing offensively is just, we haven't seen this in a long time, and they haven't been doing it with Kevin Durant. It's going to be really hard to say, hey, they're going to have 4 off shooting nights in 7-game series, as you said.
Yeah, it is. You know, essentially when you got 3 great basketball players in KD, Kyrie, and James Harden, you just don't know who's going to be that guy that night. And if you don't have enough defense and offense to counteract what they got, that's just going to be one long series.
Yeah. All right, Jared, thank you so much for doing this. We're going to let you go. I know it's a 12-hour time difference over there in Korea, so we'll let you go about your day. Is there anything we can plug for you before we wrap up the show?
Go Bucks. Regardless of the situation, always go Bucks.
There you go. That is going to do it for us here on The Hedge. A special thanks to Jared Sullinger and Earl K. Sneed. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, at The Game Day Hoops and The Game Day CBB. Drop a comment. Let us know what you think, what you want us to talk about on the next episode of The Hedge, and we'll see you soon.